Good afternoon and welcome to today's online seminar where we're going to be exploring the Multilingual Customer Service Challenge. We're going to try and avoid talking about Brexit, so I apologise now if it does crop up, but this was an instigator that brought new challenges to providing a multilingual service, so it's very difficult to avoid it. But it is not the only challenge, especially as we look ahead at the rising cost of living and the impact on the economy and actually where the potential opportunities might be. But that's not the only thing that's changing. There is this growing use of digital channels, and maybe that means that providing a multilingual service is actually becoming a little easier. So we're going to explore all of that today. So today is, as always, an opportunity for you to participate in this live debate. So please use the Q&A or the chat functionality on the platform to have your say, ask your questions of the panel. So please do join in with us. Now, joining us shortly on screen will be Ollie Grant from Vodafone, Vicky Niven from Assurant, and Lisa Kavanagh from Concentrix. But to kick us off with some fascinating facts and insights, please welcome CEO of Chatlingual, Justin Custer, to join me on screen. Hello, Justin. Are you there?
Hey, Lee.
Hi, and welcome. Now, Justin, for the benefit of those that don't know what Chatlingual is, please can you briefly share what it is that you do?
Absolutely. So, hey, everybody. Thank you for joining today. Super excited to be here and grateful for your time and the panelists as well. And as Lee mentioned, I'm the CEO and the founder of Chatlingual, and we focus on helping our enterprise clients deliver amazing customer experiences. And we also help solve some difficult challenges around providing multilingual customer support.
Perfect.
So a bit more just for the folks that are joining today about my background. I studied mechanical engineering, and so I tend to get really excited about data, specifically data that's easy to quantify. I also get pretty excited about technology and even more excited about applying technology to solve really difficult problems. Interestingly, language is neither of those. It's not easy to quantify, and it's not very technologically focused, right? Language it's incredibly emotional, and it's kind of the basis on which we provide the exciting and delightful customer experiences regarding our brands and the products and services that we buy. So language has been a challenge for humans for thousands of years. And today, most companies are solving these challenges the same way that we did thousands of years ago, right? Really, we see companies taking one of two approaches. It's either ignoring the problem, and of course, the incredible opportunity that comes with it, or by hiring humans with a really specific skill set, one of language, right? It's hiring bilingual speakers. And it's really only been in the past 5 years or so that we as humans in the history of humanity have been able to solve these human language problems with computers instead of people. And so at Chatlingual, we're applying this new way of working specifically to customer service. I wanted to share some market insights and just a few stats with you to kind of kick off the discussion today. And these insights are based on a survey of 8,700 people, consumers across 29 different countries. And given a choice between buying two similar products, 76% of respondents claim that they would choose one that had information in their native language. Now, what's kind of interesting around that is their price sensitivity. And those same respondents said that they were willing to pay more for the same product or service with information in their native language. Incredibly important to our e-commerce clients. 75% of consumers said that they're more likely to purchase from the same brand again if they're able to get customer care in their native language. And 60% said that native language support increased their loyalty to their brand. So inherently, right, I think all of us know this. That's probably why you're here today. And that is engaging your customers in their native language is better for your business. So if that's true, why aren't more companies supporting their customers in their native language today? Well, I think it's because the traditional view is that it's challenging, it's expensive, and with new ways of working, it doesn't have to be anymore. And so that's exactly what we're here today to discuss.
And Justin, I just want to chip in there. It's when we went through Brexit, sorry, I am going to mention the B word, that did mean that a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, things did become more difficult to find those language skills. Is that something that you've heard when you've been talking to customers?
Absolutely. I mean, Brexit, I think, played a big part in that, especially with the UK-focused companies. But also the past 2 years with COVID and the Great Resignation has also made it even more challenging to go out and find the people that you need to go and solve these challenges with their skill set of being bilingual speakers. Yes, going out and recruiting, hiring, and keeping contact center support agents it's a tough business.
And I know we're going to touch on the whole recruitment challenge as we continue into the panel debate. Sorry, Justin, back to you.
I'm sorry, Lee, back to me.
Yes, back to you.
So I'm excited to have the discussion and loving to hear from kind of the folks that we have on the panel to discuss some of the business challenges that they faced, which many of them are challenges that we address today with ChatLingual.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Justin. So please welcome on screen three organizations that are all members, and I know that are also a couple of them are customers of ChatLingual. So we've got Ollie Grant, who is the Senior Manager of Customer Operations Transformation from Vodafone. We have Vicky Niven, who is the EU Telecom Director at Assurant. And we have Lisa Kavanagh, who is VP of Global Delivery Practices at Concentrix. Welcome, guys.
Great to be here.
That was a race to who could find their mute button quickest. I love it. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining the panel today and having the opportunity to share what you've been through, what you're going through, and for us to really just bring to the surface the challenges and the opportunities that are available for providing that multilingual service. So if I can come to each of you, please, just to introduce yourselves and also explain where you're at right now with regard to multilingual. And Vicky, if I could come to you first, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Lee. So, yeah, Vicky Niven, I'm the Telco Director for Assurant. So, to give you a little bit of background, I've been within the contact centre industry for 15, 16 years and working on the European market for probably around 6 to 7 years now. And how that has such a different approach to, I was very heavily based in the UK, very much knew everything UK, to them requiring multilingual contact centres for the European market. So very much to Justin's point, we are probably a little bit behind the times from a innovation and a more, I guess it's more around the requiring more sort of chat bots and IVRs that can almost do the work for us. So we're in the market for the hiring humans. Very much also, Lee, there is the point that you raised. I know we're not talking Brexit, but what challenges that also had for us. Just to kind of give you a feel for that, we've got the data sharing situation whereby we're no longer able to share data within the UK if it is for the German market. So that's a requirement for some of our clients. So ultimately, contact centres within Germany, we've had to set up in Germany, and we're having to almost do a bit of a triangle share. So we're having to go from Germany to our Assurant office in the Netherlands, and so on and so forth. So I think the key call outs and the thing that I'm excited about today, and also talking to ChatLingual, is that we've very much stood back, and we've almost, since the pandemic, have we pride ourselves on innovation. We want to get to the point, and we hear our customers day in, day out wanting to get faster service. They don't want to have to sit in IVR queues all day. They don't want to have to have to wait for an email to be responded to within the 24, 48 hours. They want somebody readily available at the fingertips to be able to have a quick conversation to say, this is the situation, this is what we need to do. And as Assurant, and just to give some context on what it is that we actually do, is we work within the connected living world. So we are very much about mobile phones and gadgets. So as you can appreciate, when there was the big pandemic, albeit that, you know, we were very lucky to carry on serving our customers, we acted fast within that. The only situation I would say is that it's insurance for customers that need to be put back in the position they were in prior to losing their assets. So I think the key for us here is that what we've almost done is stood still, because we've had to act fast in regards to delivering a service to our customers. But I feel like now we're at this point where we need to come out the other side, whereby we now need to start thinking more innovatively with regards to offering customers more options. They want self-serve. They want to have somebody that doesn't necessarily, you know, have to sit in a queue for 10, 15 minutes to then have to be passed to a different department. They want the answers there and then. So I think just to sort of wrap that up is we've stood still and very much welcoming any kind of questions or advice or support on how we get to that next level, because with hiring humans, to Justin's point, it comes at a cost, and everybody wants native, and it's, yeah, quite the challenge.
Thank you, Vicky. And I suspect that there's going to be quite a few people listening in who really recognise and align to your current position of, you know, where do you go next? How do you move it forward? So thank you so much for sharing. And as I mentioned at the top of the call, this is an opportunity for you to participate. So if you've got any questions, if you've got any advice along the way too, then please do share it through the chat and the Q&A. This is an open debate. Thank you so much, Vicky, for sharing. I will be coming back to you later in particular about what customers want. Ollie, no, let me go to Lisa next. Lisa, please do share what your current situation is.
Hi, Lee. Thanks for the introduction. So I'm Lisa Kavanagh. I am VP of Global Strategic Practices in Concentrix. And for those of you who don't know Concentrix, we're a global provider of CX solutions and technology. So we service our clients from all over the world, and maybe surprisingly, we have about 280,000 staff. So quite a big operation. Multilingual services and the provision of technology into that area is one of our strategic practices at the moment, and we do work with Chatlingual and some other providers in this space. We have a very complex need. So in our European markets alone, we service 30 languages currently, and that's across 20 countries and 11 sectors. So with some of the challenges that Victoria has already spoken about, recruiting very specific skill sets for very specific brand needs in different geos that meet our clients' needs can be a very complex operation. So we work very much with what's right for our client. We very much encourage bringing technology into the mix because we've seen how well it can work, and we have some really positive case studies in that area.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And we'll come back to, I want to dive a little bit later on into what the opportunity is for outsourcers, especially as we're seeing organisations starting to lean a little bit more heavily on outsourcers to provide that support. Thank you, Lisa. Ollie, please introduce yourself.
Hey, thanks, Lee, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be here. So I'm Ollie Grant. I work as a Senior Operations and Digital Transformation Manager in Vodafone. Specifically, I look after our non-core products. So I work in a department where we look after smart tech products, which is sort of trackers and in-home help, things like that. So it's a little bit outside the norm of the telco. Full disclosure, we are a customer of Chatlingual, and we have been working with Justin and his team for the last 4 years. So unlike Victoria, we're a bit further advanced in our innovation and trying out the technology and using translation. So hopefully I'll be able to share some of the stories that we've used. But I mean, first of all, we use the translation very, very basically, not to our customers. It was for us internally, just to sort of read chats and be able to sort of discern issues that were happening across multiple different countries. And then since then, when we've seen that working, we've gone on the journey of introducing it into our AI into our chatbot, and then actually we've launched it onto our customers with some really good results. So hopefully, as I say, I'll be able to share some of those as we go forward. But my background, I've got 20 years of customer services experience, multiple countries, multiple continents, working with multilingual people, and so I know all of those challenges. And yeah, I've got to say that translation definitely opens up some new opportunities for us, and it's something that hopefully, yeah, as we go forward, we can do more of as we go forward in the future.
Well, let's start there, Ollie, looking at what the commercial benefits are for offering multilingual. So it's in the UK, arguably, there are many organisations that only provide service in English native language, but there are opportunities, there are great reasons as to why you would provide it in a multilingual service, in a multilingual environment. Ollie, what are the benefits that you've seen? Where do you think that the commercial benefits are?
Well, so if I take us on our journey, right? So we've got 40 different products in 10 different countries with 7 different languages, right? So some of those are shared, like English language, but to have a team that's dedicated to each of those countries is what you'd normally have to set up, or linguists that support those ones. And actually what we were able to do was build a centralized support desk that started off with linguists in it that could speak the native language, because obviously we weren't comfortable about using translation straight away with our customers. We're very proud about our customer experience, and it's a risk, right? One of the things that we find about people who work in operations, they're very much about effectiveness and operational excellence, right? Which can stifle innovation, because you're a bit worried about turning on some of these things, because if it has a negative customer impact, it goes against all your operational sort of background. So, turning on innovation is something that, needs to be tried. And we try and do sort of experiment fast, the agile methodology. And as I say, the first instance that we had with our use of translation was very much, we were able to translate chats from all around the globe and see centrally one quality team that could look at that and look at particular issues that were coming up for customers. So instead of sort of going, oh, we've got an issue here in the UK, or we've got an issue here in Spain, or we've got an issue here in Germany, we could collectively look at all that and go, do you know what? We've got a specific issue with this product across all of these different regions, rather than, a specific issue in the country. And that's how we started our journey. We then sort of built on that one and went, this is really good. Do you know what? Let's turn on translation, in our AI capability. So we've got a chatbot, Microsoft Lewis, that we use. We have a persona, Toby, that greets our customers. And what we were doing was we were building customer scenarios, which then had to be translated into each different language. So it was a common customer journey, right? You have the same customer journey, whether you're an English customer, a German customer, or a Spanish customer. And we were building it and then asking each of those markets to translate it. And actually, that's pretty inefficient and very slow as well, right? So what we did was, working with Justin, is we turned on translation for our AI bot. And actually, we built everything in English, and then we had slight nuances, because 80% of the journeys are all the same. We had slight nuances which we could then turn on for those specific languages that we need to. But everything was built in one, so it meant, consistent, efficient, and effective and accelerated development that we could do. And so if we saw issues, we could actually train Toby to recognize certain intents and scenarios that day and turn it on and know that it was covering all the different markets. So that was really effective from that point of view. And then the latest one for us, and I'll shut up because I've said too much already, but we had a business challenge. So one of our markets had a very small customer base, and actually the agents that they were using to support those customers were only having very sporadic conversations with our CIOT customers. So what was happening is, if they were only getting 1 or 2 queries a week as an agent, they couldn't build up their expertise to be able to support the customer in the best possible way. They were still getting very positive TNPS, good customer experience, but actually, we could see that our centralized team using translations and expert agents were getting better. So we had this conversation with the market and said, why don't we turn translations? And this was our Greek market. So Greek as a language is pretty difficult. Certainly reading it is pretty tough, right? So what we actually did was turned on the translation. We piloted it. So we had Greek native customers that were used to speaking to native Greek agents on voice. And we turned it to translation, digital only. And so they were starting to input in Greek, have it translated into English, talk to our expert agents in Cairo, in Egypt is where we were situated. And actually what we saw was, and this is an incredible bit because my background is I'm a Six Sigma black belt, right? So I love data and all of that one. We could prove that a customer was happier talking to an expert agent using translation than they were actually talking to a native speaker that didn't have the expertise. And actually TNPS was up 20 points, which was incredible. So, we've got the data that shows that, we've done this one. So we've sort of, unlocked a little bit of innovation there, and we're going, do you know what? Let's go and try this again. So I think our next one is to unlock some of the other languages. And actually the next one after that will be, we've been doing it on consumer. We'll also want to extend it to enterprise as well, because, that's another big challenge for us.
Interesting. And Ollie, I think what you've proven there, and it does get proven time and time again, is that customers just want their issues resolved. Vicky, you mentioned it. They just want their issues solved, whether that is by voice chatbot and however they want it just solved. Vicky, was that useful listening to what Ollie shared just then?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I should have probably added on as we opened was more around the fact that it's not that we don't want to innovate, because it's absolutely key. And our tagline really is digital first. Like, let's get the customer served as quickly and efficiently as possible. And I think the thing that causes us the nervousness is around the translation. And I think, Ollie, you mentioned that as well in regards to, you have that slight nervousness. You think, how do you get that tone? How do you almost get the local language? Like, it's as if, like, when you're asking a question, for example, to a chatbot, how is that translation coming across to the customer? When is it very robotic almost, or is it actually quite free flowing, and is it quite natural to the customer, that level of conversation? But I also think as well, to Ollie's point where he said about you do have these teams that are in silos. So we will have a Spanish team, and we have a German team, and we have them in country, and we have them based in the UK who can support us from an auditing perspective. So absolutely, really, really helpful since having these conversations that actually, let's just take that leap of faith and make sure that we have the confidence, because we're obviously talking to people that have the experience of customer of Chatlingual that can actually vouch for the quality.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say, Lee, can I just jump in there actually, because Victoria mentioned a really good point, and something that we've learned, which I can share with everybody, is, we tested the language, and obviously, Greek was the one we did, 100% comprehension, which obviously gave us the confidence. But one of the things that we do as well, and working with Justin, and he's got some data around this as well, is that we show the customer that their conversation is being translated, which creates empathy with the customer. So they don't have to think that it's going to be 100% perfect. As long as they understand what the query is and they understand what the agent is telling them, then they're really happy. And as I say, that 20-point bump on TNPS is really interesting. But it was really a sort of key factor was that people were worried about turning into translations, because we've all seen translation through Google. It can be a bit of gobbledygook, but what we've seen is 100% comprehension, and the fact that customers know that you're translating it creates empathy and allows for a little bit more leeway in terms of the quality of that translation.
Thank you, Ollie. And Lisa, I'm going to come to you with one of the questions that's come in through the Q&A. And I am going to read the whole question out, so bear with me. So when contact is not a human translation, but there is a need to appear local, how reliable are AI solutions to accurately interpret local written text and translate to the contact center language in real time, and then allow users to write in contact center language with a translation response to local language that is accurate? And I know, Ollie, you've touched on it a little bit there, but speed being the important factor. So Lisa, just picking up on that speed piece, what's been your experience?
Yeah, absolutely a non-issue. I think Ollie's done a fantastic job of explaining how effective these solutions can be. It was one of our concerns as well, but actually we have found that we can greatly increase occupancy because we're not spreading our base of brand ambassadors or advisors across a wide remit of languages. We can specialize them in a core base language, usually English, doesn't have to be English, usually English. And the concurrency is high, the quality is high, the customer feedback's high. We've had no issues. And in terms of understanding some of the local nuances, generally when we're bringing a technology like this to our clients, they can be a little bit hesitant. So we have some clients who are on the Ollie scale, and we have some clients who are maybe a little bit more afraid of injecting the technology. And generally what we find is they'll bring the language speakers to one of the demos. If Justin's team takes the demo, and they'll try and break the tools. So they'll come in, they'll put in the slang, they'll put in the local words, and then they get really frustrated that they can't break it. So honestly, that has been our experience. We have also seen increased rates in NPS scores through using the translation services tools. So generally we find if a client trials this with one language, they will very, very quickly start to evolve it over their extended language set. So really positive experiences.
And one of the things that's we're obviously talking much about is that the fact that the conversation is via chat, it's via digital, and this kind of plays into the hands of, well, digital first strategies. We're hearing lots of members that are moving towards more of a digital first strategy. Victoria, when you're looking at this as an opportunity, building out your multilingual service capability, are you looking at, do we go with hiring multilingual people, or are you looking at, do you know what, the only way to deliver this is through chat, through digital? Where's your mindset at? Because I guess coming back to what Ollie said earlier, people just want their queries answered, regardless of channel. They just want their queries answered. And one would say, well, if they can just pick up the phone and talk to someone, then that would be the best thing. But Vicky, that's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the key, is that we have stuck with hiring people. Okay, so when we're continuing to hire these people, it almost gives us this plaster that we put over the digital piece. So as much as we are so keen to move and evolve into the digital world, I think the challenge that we come across is that it's the understanding, it's the knowledge, it's the having the level of detail, and almost the advocates that can say to us, you know, we're a customer of Chatlingual, that can absolutely say that this is what we've experienced. So it's all well and good having Chatlingual obviously tell you and propose to you what they can offer, but actually, you know, having Ollie and Lisa be able to confirm that this is what it's done for us. The hiring has been tricky, because that then also comes with the other element of, you know, people have got options these days. You know, when you're looking at the recruitment side of things, people want the hybrid model, and is that what we want at the end of the day? We have to take into consideration then the occupancy levels. We also have to consider that, does that actually work for us as a business? And again, we go back to that same point of people want an answer quite quickly. They're not bothered too much on whether it's a human that's physically talking to you or whether it's through digital. And I think what was good to just leverage from what Ollie was saying is, as long as there's that transparency that this is a translated chat, for example, then yeah, that helps that. And I think we are very much wanting to move away from the hiring humans, because like I say, there is that delayed time scale as well. So we're talking now between 6 to 8 weeks to have somebody on board. And as it stands at the moment, we outsource all of our European contact centres because it's the best solution for us. But strategically, I don't feel like that's the future for us. But as it stands, whilst we go through this transition period from moving from people maybe more to digital, we continue in this same sort of route of hiring and so on. So yeah.
Interesting. And Lisa, I want to come to you because I want to come back to that, what do customers want, and that moving to digital. And Lisa, you're going to be working across a number of different clients, different sectors and all sorts. What are you seeing that customers want?
Yeah, I honestly think there's no one size fits all. I think you've got to sit back and consider who your customer base are. So if your customer base are in certain demographics, they may be more willing to pick up a digital channel and self-service than maybe if they're of the older demographic. And we know that there's some cultural nuances there as well. So you definitely have to sit back and consider who your customers are and what they're going to be receptive of. That being said, I think there is a broader trend to move towards digital because we get a lot more AI, self-service digital or self-service opportunities in digital. Although that is starting to move more into the voice channel now, we're seeing some clever solutions around self-help in IVRs, for example. So I think you've got to think about the efficiencies. You've got to think about your customer base. I don't think translation is now as big a barrier as it was in the past. But making sure you've got the right fit for your customers is the most important aspect.
And Lisa, I'm going to stay with you. And I know that there is a question in the Q&A around cultural differences. And I do want to come back to that. I do want to explore that because I think that's an important topic. But Lisa, just staying with you for a moment around the opportunity for outsourcers. So as I mentioned earlier, there is this wave of organizations that are looking to outsource us for help because of just some of the normal recruitment challenges that people are going through, let alone trying to recruit for multilingual. How is this an opportunity for outsourcers if they're able to offer multilingual services?
Yeah, well, it's a core part of our business model, and I don't think that's ever going to go away. We've already talked about the benefits of talking to the end customer in their own language. I think the benefit that we have is just what you've said, Lee. We have a lot of experience seeing how different clients implement different customer journeys across lots of different industries. So by looking at those experiences and by learning from those experiences, both from our clients and from our own perspectives, and we would give a lot of feedback to our partners as well. So, we regularly touch base with Justin and his team with, observations or ideas that come from our customer base. I think it just gives us that broader understanding to help take companies who are maybe that little bit more unsure about which direction to go and give them some facts to allow them to make the right decision for them. So it maybe takes more fear or some fear out of the process.
Yeah, no, thank you, Lisa. And I'm going to ask you one quick little question that's come in. You mentioned that the root translation language is typically English. What other root languages are available? I assume
I'll hand that one to Justin. Justin, do you want to talk about the core root languages?
Absolutely. So good question. Today, most of our clients use English as a base language. We do have 2 clients that we're working with right now to explore Spanish and separately Italian as a base language. So if that's a concern, happy to have that discussion. Today, we're confident in our ability for English and we're exploring others. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, there's a 3rd language we're exploring as a base as well, and that's Chinese.
Interesting. And I am going to, while you're with us, Justin, I am just going to ask one of the other questions that's in the Q&A from Neil. Does accuracy change with the popularity of the language, i.e. more obscure, less accurate?
Great question as well. And, we take a different approach. So we get asked a lot about accuracy and what's the accuracy of language. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, language is really hard to measure and it's difficult to quantify, especially when it comes to accuracy. And instead of accuracy, what we measure is comprehensibility. So we want to understand, hey, are customers able to get their answers as easily as possible? as quickly as possible? And then ultimately, are you able to create a delightful experience, right? You want your customers ultimately to have a good experience and to come back and to be loyal to the brand and to buy more products and services that you offer. And so in our methodology we've created around measuring comprehensibility, it does vary by language, but the spectrum of that variation is fairly narrow. It's between roughly 94 and 97%, depending on language. So comprehensibility is very high for the languages that we support today for our clients. In terms of languages that we support 100 languages. And right now, our largest language client, we're supporting 26 languages for them.
Wow. Thank you, Justin. So I am going to come back to that question from Andy for you, Ollie. And it is starting to touch on the cultural differences. And this is very much, I think, from a customer perspective. And then maybe we'll touch on the challenges if you're recruiting multilingual. So Ollie, I'm really interested to understand if you have seen any gaps as a result of using a translation tool or native speakers when it comes to cultural differences and nuances. So I think that's thinking more from a customer perspective, where obviously you might talk to customers differently in a different country.
Yeah, I saw that question. Thank you, Andy. I couldn't multitask and answer it and listen at the same time, right? I'm a man, so I couldn't do that. But I would say that as Justin talked about, comprehension, 100% accuracy. Translation accuracy, he says he can't measure it, but we had to make sure it passed all of our tests, and we're about 99%. And those nuances, we had a couple of occasions where customers' names or the product name was translated, and that caused a little bit of confusion. Repeat the question and you answered it, and as I said, that's why we got 100% comprehension. But we did have a couple of nuances where the languages translated the product name specifically. Now, I will say that we can now control that, because one of the things that Justin and the team have done is they've created a database for custom phrases. So if you don't want something to be translated, you can put it into the database and say, like, we've got a product called Curve. We don't want that name. We want that preserved. Every time a customer says they've got a curve and they're using a curve, we want that preserved. And so we put that into the database and it doesn't get translated. So there are nuances where we've seen that it has translated, inaccurately, but very, very rarely. And actually, some of those scenarios have now been solved because we can, manage it ourselves and look at custom phrases that mean that we never translate that. We never translate the customer's name because we can put it in a form and we know what they're saying at that point. We never translate, a product name because they could get translated, misconstrued, and other stuff. So there's things that we can do to mitigate that one and control it ourselves, and it's been very effective for us.
Interesting. And I do want to stay on this cultural piece. And Vicky, I want to come to you next in terms of thinking about it from a cultural perspective. So you've got multilingual advisors, and I mean that's you've got to manage that in the contact center. What's your view in terms of, I want to grow that, I want to have that multicultural environment, or actually that opportunity to be able to offer more languages by using a chatbot with great translation? Vic?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, back to what we have currently. So if you think that we have every client that we have that is European, we outsource at the moment. We have 15 outsourcers that we work with currently across Europe. So in itself, getting around each one and being able to provide as much focus to each is quite stretching for, there's 5 of us currently working within the European team, looking after the contact centers. So I think going back to what we've discussed around the capabilities of the chatbots and the different opportunities that this brings, is it really about growing that, or is it more about consolidating the actual operation to be more of a hub whereby we do have you could have multiple English people obviously having the conversations from one location it's mind-blowing that actually I don't quite understand why we've not looked at this in more detail. And again, we do blame the pandemic of standing still. As long as we can service our customers, that's really the key for us that was at the forefront, and now we're coming out the other side. So I think my focus and what my takeaway from today will be absolutely is to be banging the drum around. Do you realize what capabilities there are? Actually, do we need the 15 locations? Do we need, we're currently servicing in, I think it's 12 different European languages as well for the different clients. So could we start leveraging this more so and start reducing the outsourcing down to a couple? And then obviously, do we then explore the multiple different languages? I definitely believe from the conversations we've had today that there is the need still in regards to having the native speakers from a testing and checking, and also understanding the different requirements from the different markets, because we can't all say, for example, we know what we want from the UK market, but actually we need to be flexible in what is actually out there with the different markets. But absolute food for thought in regards to these 15 outsourcers. There's certainly no need for all these flights and so on. So I
think
I guess
maybe
there's
if I could just
why. Go on, Lisa.
I was just going to say, Vicky, if you still have advisors who take phone calls, then you'll still have to have a mix right now anyway of your different languages, but you may be able to increase their occupancy levels if perhaps they have English as a second language, and they could be answering any of your chats or digital channels in any language that they're receiving from the end customer. So it's another angle to look at.
Absolutely. I think the key driver for us is we're in a mobile phone world. So we're in the industry of mobile phones, gadgets. Everybody's literally got a text message at the click of the finger, click of the thumb. They want their insurance to be exactly the same. It's exactly what they want. They're working in mobile phones. They don't understand why we're not as quick, and I understand that. So definitely.
Interesting. Lisa, I'm going to come to you because there is a question in the chat, and it's something I just want to explore a little bit more, is using tools like Google Translate. So the question in the chat is, how do you ensure that Chatlingual is accurate when translating into another language? Does it correct the word order, unlike something like Google Translate? But Lisa, please, can you explore that a little bit more, in particular about what Google Translate can do and where it maybe just falls short when you're trying to offer a brilliant service?
Yeah, I think I'm going to answer this from a kind of business perspective, and then I'm going to give Justin an opportunity to give you the technical explanation. Our experience has been that we have talked to clients about introducing some of this multilingual translation capabilities, tools like Chatlingual and some other partners as well. For the clients who tend to want the lower cost option perhaps and use Google Translate because it's free, we tend to find that they stall somewhere along the process. So they run it for a little while, they seem to become very disengaged, and then they go back to let's just hire. And it's really hard then to come around the circle again and say, no, but we have something really clever and we know this works, because they've had an experience. It hasn't really worked the way they've hoped it works. But we know that with engines like Chatlingual, the experience is much more comprehensible and a much better outcome for the client. So Justin, I know you use a number of different translation engines in the background to make sure you're getting the perfect language algorithm. So I'll maybe let you pick up from there.
Thanks, Lisa. So regarding Google Translate, one phenomenal technology, and I get excited every time I see news articles about people using Google Translate in new and different ways. But when it comes to customer service, ultimately we're focused on the key performance indicators that our contact center managers care about, right? And one of those is certainly average handle time, or more importantly, hey, how many conversations can the team of agents you have support on a daily basis? And using Google Translate tends to drive up average handle time. And if you just think about it, supporting 2 or 3 conversations simultaneously while copying and pasting back and forth between Google Translate is incredibly cumbersome. Some of our clients have security concerns, especially around GDPR and where their information is being sent and stored, and we overcome that in some smart ways. And I think, as Ollie had mentioned, right, with custom phrases, there are a number of different ways that we enable our clients to control the tone of the conversation that agents are having with customers, and also to specify how certain words or phrases are handled. And so we provide a significantly more comprehensive solution when it comes to language in the customer service space. You know, touching on what Vicky had to say too, I think it's interesting to note, right? Our philosophy at Chatlingual is the best experience you can provide for your customers is providing them customer service in their native language and their native dialect. No question, that's the best. That, from an operational perspective and from a business case perspective, is just incredibly challenging to do. But the way that we handle that is we work with existing teams seamlessly. So if you have a bilingual team, our technology sits on top of it and of your bilingual team. And the way that we handle routing is if you have a customer coming from Austria speaking German, we'll actually first check to see whether or not there's an agent who will be ready to provide support to that customer. Then that agent and that customer are able to have that conversation in their native language. We facilitate some of the knowledge sharing and others, but not the interpretation. It's only if one of those agents isn't available that we would route that conversation to an English speaking agent in order to provide support. And what this offers our clients is really a progressive approach to change management. If you already have bilingual speakers, like, keep them. We can start to work with you as those agents start to leave the business. You're able to focus on hiring, you know, for customer service skill to fill that role rather than just the language skill. The other point that I would make is when it comes to language and customer service, you know, we think about it in kind of two ways. There's interpretation, and that's what we've been talking about mostly today, which is, hey, how do you facilitate a real-time conversation across language? But as a contact center operations manager, there's a lot of other translation of content that you care about. So there's interpretation and translation. It's the knowledge that your agents need in order to provide support to your customers. And so if you've got agents in, you know, multiple language hubs, you have to have a content manager managing that knowledge across each language. And then from a reporting perspective, or even a quality assurance perspective, you know, you need a central team that's able to go in and review the conversation that those different bilingual speakers have. And so what we do is we remove, you know, language really from that equation across both interpretation and translation of content.
Thank you, Justin. And there are a couple of questions still in the Q&A, which I'm going to come to. First of all, for Lisa to answer the question from Dave, and Ollie, I'm going to come to you and with a question from Alan. And then Vicky, I'm going to come back to you to get your views on how you've taken on board everything that's been said. So Lisa, over to you first with regard to the question from Dave. If English is the root language, does this mean that outsourcers are using translation software in the lowest cost English speaking offshore locations to achieve cost savings or pricing pressures from clients?
I think that's a really interesting question, and actually this might be a surprising answer, but that's not something we've done to date, although it is something we would consider if a client had a need to achieve significant cost savings. What we have mainly used this for to date with our clients is to simplify what is otherwise a very complex operation. So to take one of our European hubs and to make that the hub for that client. So it may not necessarily be UK based, could be anywhere in any of our European locations where we can get English, a good standard of English, to provide the multilingual services from an English hub. I think the other really interesting thing that we haven't spoken about yet is the ability then to service either planned or unplanned ramps. So if you're a seasonal business, for example, and you have call volumes or messaging volumes that go up 60, 70, 80%, you know, retailers would see that for Black Friday coming up to Christmas time. Then your ability to source for one language in one site or maybe a couple of sites versus really sourcing for 15 languages and 5 different sites, the complexity gets taken out of that process quite significantly. So we really use it primarily to simplify operations and to make sure that there is a strong customer service offering and we can achieve our KPIs. Wouldn't take moving it to a low cost location off the table, but it's not the primary driver and it's very much client specific.
Perfect. Thank you, Lisa. And Ollie, if you're able to answer Alan's question, which is, how does this work with the aspect of transcribing meaning? As translation isn't just translation, but making sure the meaning of the written word makes sense.
Yeah, I think the way I'd say that is that I don't know the technology that Justin uses, but it works. You know, the comprehension by the customers and the users, so the agents, is 100%. That one of the things that the Chatlingual do offer is an alternative translation. So you can always ask the customer, if you weren't sure about that one, there's a button that you can press for an alternative secondary translation, which can nuance it slightly, and that contributes to the 100% comprehension that we get, if not always the accuracy. One thing I did want to say is actually, we're all passionate. If you're in a customer service center, you're all passionate about, customer experience and offering world-class experience. But the other hidden benefit of this that we found is that our agents have some of the highest engagement figures that we've seen across any of our call centers. And that's because they feel empowered. They are the experts in their field, no matter what the language is, and they can resolve customer issues with using innovation and translation. They feel empowered. They feel like they're part of something, sort of different and out of the ordinary. So their engagement scores and their happiness is really good. So that's one of the byproducts that we weren't sort of looking for, but is a nice output.
Fab, thank you, Ollie. And Vicky, now I guess you've got some options as you're sat with your big strategic plan of how you're going to do this. And I guess your options are, you can continue to recruit multilingual native speakers to answer phone calls and to have that quality of service. You could use, we've talked a little bit about Google and being able to use Google translations. And I obviously hear Lisa and Ollie kind of going, no, don't do that. And then there is the opportunity to move towards more of a digital first platform, being able to offer service through digital first. And I'm not looking for a decision from you, but it's what's your views on what you've heard today?
So firstly, my views are absolute wizardry, fantastic solution. So I'm sold. So I think the first thing for me is that as soon as we're done today, I will be speaking to our solutions team and there'll be a call and a session set up with Justin and the team. So absolutely. And I'll be reaching out to Ollie and Lisa to say, guys, please tell everybody what your experience is. It's not just a sales, but there's no sales pitch. This is what it is. And I think what's refreshing is what Justin pointed out is keep your bilingual people. And as time goes on, then obviously when the heads do start dropping off, you can almost do it running side by side and start to embed. And that's what gives me the comfort. And that's what gives me the confidence that it's not going to be a situation of, right, guys, if we go with this solution, we switch off and that's it. And we just hope for the best and we hope that it reads as it should do. So I'm beyond excited with the actual future. And at Assurant, again, customer is key. Customer's the first thing, the most important pinnacle of our business. So I think what we would look to be doing with this, and again, like you say, Lee, I'm not the 100% decision maker, whereas if I had, I'd be here now signing a contract. So yeah, I think what we will be doing is presenting back this as the ambition, because for Assurant, it's not just me that's absolutely running forward with innovation and wanting this to be simple and streamlined for the customers. It's just being brave and taking that leap of faith. And actually it's refreshing to hear other people that have actually gone through the transition and can actually vouch for the service. So give us 12 months, 18 months, let's have another conversation. And I feel like we may just be having these conversations to say, well, we've embedded and we've been able to enroll this on such and such a client.
Thank you, Vicky. Do you know what? It's so funny as we were preparing for today. One of the things that I'm really mindful about when we do online seminars is that we talk about the business issues and we look at what we can do to help contact center leaders with the challenges they're facing. And obviously this challenge was all about multilingual customer service and how do you deliver it a brilliant service. And there's just been no holding, in particular, Lisa and Ollie back, and now Vicky back on the solutions that they're using to enable that service. And so thank you, Lisa, Vicky and Ollie. Justin, can I come to you with your final thoughts, your final takeaways that those listening can think about as they leave us in 4 minutes?
Lee, thanks for that. And yes, Lisa, Vicky, Ali, thanks so much for your time and the discussion today from the participants as well. You know, I think first I would say from a Chatlingual perspective, we're incredibly passionate about providing great customer experiences. Ultimately, that's what we care about, right? And we know that language is an important component of that, hence kind of our focus on delivering a comprehensive language solution. The three points that I think, you know, given the conversation today that I would want to leave our listeners with is, number one is language matters to your customers. It's important. It is an amazing way to help improve your business, and it's now easier than it used to be. Number two, I think, you know, Ollie highlighted it in talking about his customers in Greece, and that is, hey, hire for customer service skills. Hire for expertise, not for language. That is an easy way to improve kind of your call center operations. The third and kind of final thing that I would leave with is, you know, what we're offering today, you know, I think I heard the word, you know, scared or nervous about new technology, but today it's new. 5 years from now, it's going to be the status quo. And, you know, with the right technology, the implementation process can be incredibly easy. We have a great partnership with Concentrix, and between us and Concentrix, we can really streamline the implementation and help deliver the results that we know you want for your organizations.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Justin. Really appreciate you supporting us today and being able to bring this really important topic to the forefront. Lisa, Vicky, and Ollie, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your experiences. I'm sure that there'll be people listening that want to touch base with all four of you. So if there is anybody that wants to touch base, please do feel free to get in touch with us, but I'm sure that you'll find everyone on LinkedIn too. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for joining us and listening, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.